Our Daily Bread Bible study adventure continues here for day 154. This is Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020, focusing on Job chapters 31 through 34. We see in Job 31 that he continues to list off fitting consequences for conditions that he, Job, does not meet. Job states, starting in verse 5, "If I have walked with falsehood, if my step has turned aside from the way, if my heart has been enticed by a woman, if I have rejected the cause of my male and female slaves, if I have withheld anything that the poor desired, if I have seen anyone perish for lack of food, if I have raised my hand against the orphan, if I have made gold my trust." And then slightly more focused on the unrighteous here, "if I have rejoiced at the ruin of those who hated me, or if I have concealed my transgression as others do." So he would be fitting of punishment and deserve, some sort of consequence for his actions he feels. But Job believes he's done none of these things, none of them to necessitate this hard and bitter action from God. So in Job 31:35, Job speaks to God, saying, "Oh, that I had one to hear me. Here is my signature. Let the Almighty answer me. Oh, that I had the indictment written on by my adversary." And so the words of Job are ended, as it says in Job 31:40. Job has vented. He is out. So after these 31 chapters of venting and then back and forth, we're introduced to a new character whose name is Elihu. And Elihu apparently is someone who is listening to what Job had said, but not commenting on what Job had said because it wasn't his turn, it wasn't his place. He is younger than Job's three friends who were having a dialogue with Job. But in Job 32:1, it says, "These three men ceased to answer Job because he was righteous in his own eyes. Then Elihu, son of Barachiel, the Bizutite, of the family of Ram, became angry. He was angry at Job because he justified himself rather than God. He was angry also at Job's three friends because they had found no answer, though they had declared Job to be in the wrong." So he's both critiquing Job's friends for claiming that Job is wrong, but not really having thought out why that is the case, just being kind of reactive. And then also, talking with Job as well, too, just kind of upset that Job seems to be set in that he is righteous, but how does that righteousness, justify him before the Almighty, who is also righteous? So Elihu sees Job as justifying himself in his frustration and venting towards God. So at this point, Elihu speaks, mentioning that he was hesitant to say anything because of his youth, but he now feels called to speak and believes his words are from the Lord. In Job 32:8, he says, "But truly it is the spirit of an immortal, the breath of the Almighty, that makes for understanding." So Elihu sounds in some ways similar to Job, that Elihu also wants a chance to vent. As it says in verse 19, Elihu says, "My heart is indeed like wine that has no vent, like new wineskins. It is ready to burst. I must speak so that I may find relief. I must open my lips and answer." Elihu is called to say something, and so in chapter 33, Elihu speaks towards Job. In verse 12, he summarizes, "But in this you are not right. I will answer you, that God is greater than any mortal. Why do you contend against him, saying, he will answer none of my words? For God speaks in one way, and in two, though people do not perceive it." Elihu thinks that Job is incorrect, not and his righteousness. He's not debating that Job is a righteous individual, but he's saying that his attempt to get God speak to him is, kind of testing against God. It is, this a challenge to the Almighty. And in that sense, that righteous fury that Job has is not justified. Elihu, though, is on Job's side because he desires for Job to be justified, and he wants Job to be acceptable before God again. Elihu wants the things that Job wants, but he's also cautious of the way that Job is doing it. Elihu cautions Job about saying that he will answer none of my words. Elihu brings up the point, could it be that God is working without Job's understanding or perception? That God is in some sense hidden yet working. Elihu cites the way that bad dreams make people cautious and reverent to God. And Elihu also brings up exceptions to Job's desire for divine accountability, saying that God is accountable to justice in gracious ways that you are overlooking, right? When we receive some sort of grace or a gift that is not expected, right? It's easy to take it for granted. And, when we expect something to come to us that doesn't happen, we call that injustice. So Elihu brings up 2 points. He talks one about mediation. He calls the mediator an angel. He says mediators act righteously on behalf of others, and even describes paying the ransom for an individual, right? You pay a ransom for an individual that you didn't make the actions for. That's a gift. And actually several atonement theories for Jesus' death and resurrection on, the cross and the empty tomb center around this, justification based upon a ransom. That in some sense Jesus is a ransom for us as sinners and justifies us in the eyes of God because of that. So the second is that God is lenient because mortals get multiple chances with God. In Job 33:29, Elihu states that God indeed does all these things twice, 3 times with mortals, to bring back their souls from the pit, so that they may see the light of life. And so God is a God of justice. Yes, God has consequences for actions, but God is also quick to be merciful as well, too, and to be gracious, overly abundantly gracious, not just giving back what is owed or making it right again, but going above and beyond to do that. And we will see that in a glimpse of the end of Job next time. But continuing in Job chapter 34, the last section for today, after giving Job a chance to speak, Elihu goes on and critiques Job in chapter 34, verse 9. For he has said, it profits one nothing to take delight in the Lord. Elihu thinks Job has gone too far in the statement, and that even this appearance of God being an adversary and bringing an indictment upon Job, Elihu states that the Almighty will not pervert justice. Now, it's not saying that he is going to let Job get off the hook as much as saying that the Almighty is been consistent, right? God has, consistently in the eyes of Elihu brought good upon, good people and repaid wickedness for wickedness. So, Elihu states also that God gives his spirit to all flesh. And without saying it, all flesh would mean those who are good and those who are evil, those who are deserving and those who are undeserving of that. Because God cares and God just gives. Elihu asks in Job ' will you condemn one who is righteous and mighty? saying that God, you, Job, might feel righteous and, maybe not mighty, but that you are unjustly suffering, but God is also righteous as well, too, in this. So, Elihu insists that God is observing humanity even when he is quiet, and Elihu is concerned for Job, who seems to be in a sort of test with God. Job 34:36 says, his answers are those of the wicked. He says this of Job. For Job adds rebellion to his sin. He claps his hands among us and multiplies his words against God. Thus, we don't really get anywhere today. Elihu is saying that God is righteous. Job is saying that Job is righteous. And Job is also referencing that Job is suffering. And so these three tensions exist next to each other. Next time we will see how God will accommodate all of this, and we will finally hear what God has to say about the situation with Job. Even if it is less direct of an explanation for the midst of Job's suffering. But we will continue and carry on next time. Thanks for joining me again for the Daily Bread Bible Study.